Love, Hannah realized, was no longer confined to the quiet corners of their apartments or the private language of hands brushing. It had begun to spill outward, touching the world around them. And sharing the world, she discovered, was both exhilarating and unnerving. Their friends noticed first. Casual invitations to dinners, weekend trips, or movie nights now came with Claire included. Conversations shifted from, "Do you have plans this weekend?" to, "Are you and Claire free?" It was simple, natural, yet Hannah felt a flutter of anxiety she hadn't anticipated. She had grown accustomed to the privacy of their love, and suddenly it was visible. The first time Hannah introduced Claire to her closest friend Miriam, she felt her chest tighten. Miriam had been a constant through Hannah's highs and lows, and she worried about judgment or discomfort. But when Claire stepped forward with her warm smile, steady gaze, and quiet charm, Miriam's reaction was immediate, an embrace, laughter, and a delighted approval that settled Hannah's nerves almost instantly. "She's wonderful," Miriam said later, giving Hannah a knowing look. "I can see why you're falling for her." Hannah felt her cheeks warm. "I've already fallen." Family was a different story. Some relatives were cautious, polite, curious, occasionally awkward. Others were warmer than Hannah expected, offering kindness and small gestures of acceptance that spoke louder than any words. Each interaction was a lesson in patience and trust, a reminder that love did not exist in a vacuum, it was constantly negotiating with the outside world. They also began attending public events together, gallery openings, book launches, casual dinners with colleagues. At first, Hannah felt exposed, hyper-aware of her connection with Claire. But as the months passed, it became natural. Their ease with each other, the subtle touches and shared laughter, communicated more than words ever could. One evening, at a mutual friend's rooftop party, Hannah watched Claire across the crowd. She laughed, eyes crinkling, completely herself. Hannah realized then how much she had come to rely on this shared presence. She moved to Claire's side, wrapping an arm around her waist, and whispered, "I'm glad we're out here together." Claire leaned in, resting her head on Hannah's shoulder. "Me too. I was nervous at first, but now, it feels right." They danced, loosely, laughing when the music shifted unexpectedly. Hannah felt an immense gratitude, for Claire, for their love, for the courage it had taken to be visible, to share themselves with the world. By the end of the evening, as they walked home hand in hand, Hannah realized something vital. Love was not just about being together in private. It was about choosing to face the world together, to show up, to endure scrutiny, curiosity, or misjudgment, and still remain unwavering. Claire squeezed her hand, sensing the thought. "We make a good team," she said. Hannah smiled. "The best team." And in that moment, Hannah understood that sharing the world with Claire was not a risk, it was an expansion. A promise that their love could exist fully, in every corner of life, both private and public, without losing its depth or tenderness. Life, Hannah realized, had a way of testing the very things you held most sacred. Just as love had become visible and steady, challenges appeared, not catastrophic, but enough to rattle confidence and stir fear. It began subtly. Work pressures increased for Hannah, with extra responsibilities piling on unexpectedly. Late nights at the office meant missed dinners with Claire. Claire's own projects demanded more of her attention, her evenings spent in archives or at client meetings. They tried to communicate, but the friction of fatigue and stress seeped into their interactions. One Thursday, Hannah arrived at Claire's apartment exhausted, shoulders heavy. She slumped onto the couch, not meeting Claire's eyes. "You're tense," Claire observed, voice gentle but firm. "Talk to me." Hannah shook her head. "I don't want to dump work stress on you." "You can," Claire said, taking her hand. "That's what I'm here for." Hannah exhaled sharply, the weight of weeks pressing down. "I'm just scared I'm not giving enough. I'm worried I'll let you down, or that I'll fail at this, at us, like I've failed before." Claire tightened her hold. "Hannah, love isn't a ledger of success and failure. It's a partnership. We grow together. We stumble together. We support each other. That's what matters." Hannah wanted to believe it, and she tried. But the old fear lingered, whispering that her past mistakes would dictate the future, that the delicate trust they'd built could unravel under the strain of ordinary life. Then, unexpected external pressure arrived. A former acquaintance from Hannah's past surfaced, speaking ill of her choices, hinting at rumors, attempting to sow doubt and tension. Hannah tried to dismiss it, but for the first time, she noticed how sensitive Claire had become to judgment. The smallest comment from a stranger or colleague could ripple through their world, unsettling what they had built. That evening, they sat together on the balcony, the city stretching before them in glowing windows and distant sirens. Silence hung between them, heavy but not hostile. "I don't want outside noise to touch us," Hannah admitted quietly. "But sometimes it does." Claire nodded, thoughtful. "Life will always throw distractions. The only thing we can control is how we respond. And we respond together." Hannah took a deep breath, letting the words sink. She realized that love was not just warmth, joy, and tenderness. It was endurance, patience, and courage in the face of unpredictability. The challenges, both internal fears and external pressures, were not signs of weakness. They were opportunities to strengthen the bond they had carefully nurtured. Later, in the quiet of Claire's apartment, they held each other close, fingers entwined, hearts steady. Hannah felt the reassurance of Claire's presence like a shield, a reminder that even storms could be weathered together. By the time Hannah walked home later that night, soaked in both rain and reflection, she understood something crucial: love is not proven when everything is easy. It is proven when two people choose each other despite uncertainty, fatigue, fear, or interference. And Hannah knew, with absolute clarity, that she would choose Claire every single time. By now, Hannah and Claire had grown confident in the sturdiness of their bond. The challenges they had faced, the fears, the external pressures, the small, persistent uncertainties, had not weakened them. Instead, they had clarified what mattered: each other. And with that clarity came the excitement of looking forward, of imagining a shared future in both ordinary and extraordinary ways. One Sunday morning, they sprawled across the couch with coffee and notebooks, sunlight spilling through the windows. Maps, travel brochures, and sketches of apartment renovations were scattered across the table. "I think we should start planning the Italy trip," Claire said, excitement bright in her voice. "Rome, Florence, maybe a week in the countryside?" Hannah smiled, tracing the edge of a brochure with her finger. "Yes. And I want to see the vineyards in Tuscany. Imagine us biking between towns, stopping for lunch at little cafes." She trailed off, lost in the possibility. "It will be perfect," Claire agreed. "We can make it our first big adventure together." It wasn't just travel, though. They talked about their work, their careers, and the ways they could support one another. Hannah shared her desire to develop a community project for students who struggled academically, and Claire offered her connections and insight. They sketched a timeline for merging professional growth with personal fulfillment, each idea bolstering the other. Even the smallest plans were infused with meaning. They debated paint colors for the living room, discussed furniture placement, and playfully argued about whether the balcony needed more plants or more seating. Hannah realized that these tiny decisions, once mundane or trivial, were now symbolic of shared life, a physical manifestation of trust and compromise. "I used to be afraid of all this," Hannah admitted quietly, her hand brushing Claire's across the table. "Afraid that committing to someone would mean losing myself, or losing freedom." Claire's eyes softened. "But you haven't. You found a way to be fully yourself and fully with me." Hannah nodded, heart swelling. "Yes. With you, I can plan, dream, and take risks. And know you're there." Later that night, they sat on the balcony, a glass of wine in hand, the city glittering beneath them. "We should start talking seriously about, life milestones," Claire said gently. Hannah's pulse quickened. "You mean, marriage?" Claire smiled. "I mean life together. Whatever that looks like. I want to make plans with you, Hannah. Real plans. Not just trips or furniture, but everything." Hannah felt both exhilaration and vulnerability. It was a step she had imagined but never thought would feel so immediate, so tangible. "I want that too," she whispered. "With you." They toasted quietly to dreams, to plans, and to a love that had survived fear, scrutiny, and uncertainty. And as the night deepened, Hannah realized that dreaming together was not about escaping reality, it was about creating it, shaping a life that belonged to them both, built on trust, patience, and unwavering devotion. For Hannah, the realization was profound. Love was no longer a series of cautious firsts or tender moments. It was a future waiting to be written, and they were the authors. The first holiday season they spent together was quiet but transformative. Hannah had always celebrated with her small circle of family, the traditions passed down from her childhood, cinnamon-scented candles, homemade pies, and evenings spent around the dining table telling stories that stretched back generations. Claire had never experienced a holiday quite like this, structured yet warm, nostalgic yet comforting, and she approached it with a mixture of curiosity, reverence, and gentle awe. Hannah's apartment had been transformed with soft lights, pine-scented wreaths, and carefully placed ornaments that held stories of their own. When Claire arrived, she was struck not only by the aesthetic, but by the thoughtfulness Hannah poured into every detail. "I've never seen a tree like this at my parents'," Claire admitted, laughing as she examined the mismatched ornaments. "But I love it. It feels alive." Hannah smiled, brushing a strand of hair from Claire's face. "It's more than just decorations. It's memory, it's family, it's home. I want to share it with you." The evening unfolded with laughter, music, and small acts of intimacy, Claire helping Hannah in the kitchen, Hannah showing Claire how to frost the pies just right, both of them tasting each creation as if it were the most important meal of the year. When Hannah's family arrived, Claire was nervous. First impressions mattered, and family could be intimidating. But she fit in effortlessly, charmingly polite, yet unabashedly herself. Hannah's mother reached for her hand, warmth in her eyes. "She's wonderful, Hannah," her mother whispered. "I can see why you're happy." By the end of the night, Claire felt like a part of the family, not as an outsider or guest, but as someone woven into the threads of Hannah's life. Hannah watched her interact with ease and laughter and felt a surge of affection so deep it nearly made her breath catch. Over the following months, they began creating their own shared traditions: Sunday breakfasts with freshly baked bread, weekend trips to local markets, and quiet evenings where they exchanged small gifts with no occasion other than thoughtfulness. They discovered that heritage could be fluid, old traditions embraced, new ones created, blending their lives seamlessly. One snowy evening, as they returned from a market laden with fresh vegetables and fragrant bread, Claire paused on the doorstep of their apartment. "Hannah," she said softly, "I think this is the first time I've felt completely at home during the holidays. Not just comfortable. Not just happy. Home." Hannah's heart swelled. She took Claire's hands in hers, warming them against the winter chill. "That's exactly how I feel too. And I want every holiday, every ordinary day, to feel this way with you." As the snow fell softly around them, the city quieted in its evening hush, Hannah realized something profound. Love was not just about moments of intensity or firsts. It was about belonging to someone, to a life, to shared history, and to a future carefully and tenderly built together. And in that quiet winter glow, with Claire's hand in hers and warmth radiating through her chest, Hannah knew that she had found something eternal, a love that could hold both the ordinary and the extraordinary, and make both sacred. The first anniversary of their love approached quietly, without fanfare, but with a weight of meaning that neither Hannah nor Claire could ignore. It was more than a date, it was a marker of survival, of patience, of months spent building trust and intimacy that had withstood fear, scrutiny, and the unpredictable trials of life. They chose to celebrate simply. A weekend getaway to the countryside, a small cottage surrounded by autumn trees, windows framing golden light and the quiet rustle of leaves. Hannah packed a notebook, her thoughts scribbled haphazardly, while Claire brought wine, blankets, and her own quiet excitement. When they arrived, they unpacked slowly, lingering in the familiarity of being together away from the rhythm of city life. Afternoon sunlight poured through the windows as they made tea and settled onto the couch. Hannah took Claire's hand, their fingers entwining naturally. "Can you believe it's been a year?" Hannah asked softly, the words almost reverent. Claire's eyes sparkled, a mix of amusement and deep affection. "I can. And I can't. It's been both the longest and the shortest year of my life." They laughed, then fell into comfortable silence, reflecting on the months behind them. They recalled first touches, first confessions, the anxieties of revealing their love to friends and family, and the quiet victories of trust and patience. Each memory was a thread, woven into a tapestry of shared experience. Hannah looked at Claire, heart full. "Do you remember that first kiss on the balcony? How hesitant we were." Claire nodded, smiling. "And now? Now I can't imagine being hesitant with you." They shared a quiet meal, toasting to the year behind them and the countless possibilities ahead. Later, they walked along the river, hands intertwined, the reflection of city lights rippling across the water. "I've been thinking," Hannah said, stopping to face Claire. "About everything we've built, about everything we still want." Claire tilted her head, curious. "I want us to keep growing," Hannah continued. "Travel more, dream more, face challenges together. I want a life where we look back not with regret, but with gratitude for the choices we made and the love we nurtured." Claire brushed a loose strand of hair from Hannah's face. "I want that too. And I want us to keep celebrating milestones like this, not just the big ones, but the small ones too. Every day we choose each other is a milestone." Hannah smiled, feeling the quiet magnitude of their commitment. Love, she realized, was cumulative, the sum of firsts, of shared routines, of quiet courage, of celebrations both grand and intimate. That night, in the cottage's warmth, they lay together, tracing the contours of each other's faces, whispering stories of the year behind them, and dreaming aloud about the future. Hannah felt a sense of permanence she hadn't allowed herself to imagine before, love that was steady, resilient, and capable of encompassing both their vulnerabilities and their joy. As they drifted to sleep, wrapped in each other's arms, Hannah understood something profound. Anniversaries were not merely markers of time. They were moments of reflection, gratitude, and a quiet reaffirmation that the love they had chosen, nurtured, and protected was strong enough to last a lifetime. By the time Hannah and Claire reached this chapter of their lives, the world felt both familiar and infinite. Their love, carefully nurtured through months of firsts, challenges, holidays, and milestones, had grown into a steady, unshakable presence. But they were no longer content to exist only in the private sphere. They wanted to build a future together, a life with roots, purpose, and perhaps, one day, a family. One crisp morning, they walked hand in hand through the park, the air sharp and invigorating. Claire paused at a small bench beneath a tree just turning gold for the season, turning to face Hannah. "I've been thinking," Claire began, "about what comes next. About us. About how we want our life to look in the long term." Hannah's heart thumped. "Go on. I want us to build something lasting. Not just memories or adventures, but a family. Together. If you're ready." Hannah felt warmth flood her chest. She had always imagined a family in some hazy, distant way, but never thought it could feel so tangible, so real. "I am," she said softly. "With you." "Yes. Absolutely." They spent the following months planning carefully, exploring options for adoption, discussing logistics, talking to counselors and friends, and envisioning the life they wanted to create for a child. Every conversation was layered with hope and seriousness, laughter and quiet reflection. It was no small undertaking, but it felt natural because they were doing it together. Meanwhile, they continued to nurture their personal dreams. Hannah's community projects flourished, supported by Claire's guidance and connections. Claire's work reached new heights, yet she always returned to the shared apartment, to the rituals and routines that grounded them both. One evening, after a long day, they sat on the balcony wrapped in blankets, glasses of wine in hand, watching the city lights shimmer against the night sky. "I never imagined," Hannah said, leaning into Claire, "that love could feel like this. So full, so patient, so ours." Claire kissed her temple. It's ours because we chose it every day. Because we protect it. Because we dream together. And soon, their dreams became reality. A child entered their lives, not as a fleeting wish, but as a chosen, beloved presence. Every diaper changed, every bedtime story, every scraped knee comforted was an act of love that deepened the bond between them. They were a family in every sense, messy, joyous, complicated, and utterly beautiful. Years passed, and Hannah watched as their adopted daughter grew, carrying pieces of both of them, the love and lessons they had nurtured. Hannah and Claire celebrated anniversaries, birthdays, and quiet ordinary mornings alike, their love deepening into a legacy that could not be diminished by time, circumstance, or the outside world. Hannah reflected on the journey, from tentative first touches, whispered fears, and whispered confessions on balconies, to public love, shared holidays, and finally, the creation of a life together. Each chapter of their story had been deliberate, messy, joyous, and fiercely real. As they tucked their daughter into bed one night, Hannah and Claire held hands in the doorway, a quiet acknowledgement passing between them. They had built a life they had dreamed of, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. And in that certainty, Hannah understood the profound truth she had been discovering for months: love, when tended patiently and courageously, could endure anything. It could survive fear, scrutiny, and time. It could expand beyond two people to create a family, a home, and a legacy. The future, finally, was in their hands. And for Hannah, Claire, and their daughter, it was brighter than they had ever imagined. Years later, their daughter, bright, curious, and deeply perceptive, sat on the balcony with Hannah's journal in her lap. She had read every entry, every memory, and asked questions about how two women had fallen in love and built a life together. "Mom," she said softly, "I think I understand. You and Claire, you made love a home. And that home is me too." Hannah hugged her tightly, feeling the full circle of their journey. "Yes, sweetheart. You are our home, and our legacy, and everything we hoped for." Through her eyes, the story of Hannah and Claire became timeless, a tale of patience, courage, devotion, and the quiet, powerful act of choosing each other every single day. Their love, once tentative and whispered, had become living, breathing, and eternal. And in that moment, Hannah knew, the story they had begun together would continue long after their own chapters ended. Because love, real and fearless, leaves traces that echo across generations.